camera works, but the internet doesn't work. What the fuck? Wait. Oh, now you start working. Huh. All right. Hold on a minute. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Had to look up some stuff. Now, before we even get in to this, because I know many people, regrettably, don't know your history. Hey, yes, I'm talking about you all. Don't know half of you guys not going to your schools like you should. Good. So, in this one, before we even get to the history of gladiators, there's not the movie. Definitely not the movie. The history. The history of gladiators. Give me a minute. Not the movie. Wait, what is with people in movies? Wait, there's a Jeep Gladiator? The fuck? Actually, I'm gonna try a better approach. Hold up. YouTube, don't let me down now. Glamorous Gladiator. Here we go. History. Now, here's the history of gladiators. Have fun. Oh, and shout out to Weird History.
In ancient Rome, arena combat was an ingrained tradition that bridged the worlds of sports, politics, religion, and entertainment. It was also totally nuts. Romans loved the games, and gladiators were like rock stars and sports heroes rolled into one. They fought before massive crowds, with a wide variety of weapons, and often under circumstances that were mind-blowingly dangerous. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Today we're going to take a look at some insane facts about what it was like to be a Roman gladiator. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History channel and let us know in the comments below what other historical entertainment you would like to hear about. Okay, this is going to escalate quickly.
It is.
When we think of gladiators, we tend to picture warriors fighting for sport in an arena as entertainment for a crowd. However, that wasn't always the case. Long before the games became a public event, gladiator combat was part of the funeral rites for Rome's wealthiest aristocrats. It was believed that the spilling of blood in combat would purify the soul of the deceased and prepare them for their coming time in the afterlife. This ritual, which had been appropriated from Etruscan culture, was originally a luxury reserved only for the richest Roman citizens. But as time went on and the culture evolved, the fights transformed into highly popular, state-funded spectacles. The idea of two people fighting to the afterlife for sport might sound pretty insane to us, but for the ancient Romans, it got old real fast. So to keep things exciting and hopefully keep the crowds coming back, promoters turned to gimmicks. Instead of 10-cent beer night, there was onda betae, a gimmick that meant in combat, the gladiators wore blindfolds and helmets without eye holes. And if that's not dangerous enough, they also couldn't wear any armor, being restricted to only loincloths and sandals. Yeah, it sounds pretty harsh, especially if it's a chilly day, but this particularly brutal contest was typically reserved for criminals who had been sentenced to death. Spectacles in the arena weren't limited to human combat. Wild animals like crocodiles, elephants, and lions were also part of the action. The animals might be pitted against each other, or sometimes fight against a human. When these events occurred, the beasts didn't typically fight with regular gladiators. Rather, they were usually part of a special hunting event which featured warriors known as venatores and bestiari. Venatores were highly trained hunters armed with spears and bows who would showcase their formidable skills by killing animals from a distance. Bestiari, on the other hand, were criminals accused of particularly heinous offenses. They typically had no combat training and were tossed into the arena as punishment for their crimes. The bestiari were usually taken out by the animals they faced, which absolutely delighted the crowds. Matches like these were often the opening event of the games, because presumably nothing says fun entertainment like a convict being eaten by a croc. Chomp, chomp, chomp.
There were female gladiators, I knew it!
The vast majority of gladiators were men, but there were some women. Although it's not known when the practice started, women are also known to have fought in the arena. The existence of these warriors, known as gladiatresses, is known only from a handful of accounts. However, some historians believe they may have been a common feature of the games by the 1st century. Gladiatresses fought for spectacle and often joined in the hunting activities, but the gladiatresses weren't always treated as respectfully as their male counterparts. They were often used in parody matches meant to get laughs from the crowd. For example, the Emperor Domitian is known to have staged fights between gladiatresses and dwarves. Despite this, there were also legitimate contests between these lady gladiators, and they were known to have fought with honor. An ancient commemorative relief in the city of Halicarnassus depicts such a battle. Fought between two women identified as Aquila and Amazon, the relief suggests the combatants were released after the battle ended in a stalemate. The age of the gladiatresses came to an end in the year 200, when Emperor Septimus Severus banned them from the games. Hollywood would have us believe that gladiatorial combat was a gory hellscape that didn't end until someone was dead, but the truth is much more complicated. In actuality, gladiators were expensive to train, and they also had to be fed and housed. As such, their owners weren't exactly in a rush to see their investment get taken out in the arena. As a result of these financial considerations, killing was a lot less common than we've all been led to believe. To help minimize expenses, there were numerous loopholes that allowed for both combatants to escape the fight alive. For example, if the fight grew boring, it might be declared a stalemate, so the event could move on to the next match. Conversely, if a fight was particularly thrilling, both gladiators might be rewarded for putting on
Yeah, it's called Weird History. Give me a minute.
No, don't.
No, I'm... Okay, sorry about that. My mother, came down. Give me a minute.
Both gladiators might be rewarded for putting on such a good show, and then allowed to leave with honors. If all else failed, and then gladiators might be rewarded for putting on such a good show, and then allowed to leave with honors. If all else failed, a gladiator who had been squarely beaten, or was about to be, could always beg for their life. The defeated gladiator would have to acknowledge their loss by raising their fingers. Once this was done, there was a chance his life could be spared. But there were no guarantees. The final decision about who lived and who died rested with an arbiter. Different games had different arbiters, unless the emperor was present, in which case the emperor was always the arbiter. Arbiters could do whatever they pleased, but they often took the wishes of the crowd into account. By cheering for a fighter they liked, a crowd could literally save the man's life. Pro athletes get a ton of respect today, but in ancient Rome, it was a little different. Crowds loved the gladiators, but they didn't want to associate with them personally, because socially speaking, entertainers were considered to be low on the social totem pole. This reality made it awkward for everyone on the rare occasion an emperor decided he wanted to get into the arena and fight, and it did happen. Despite being seen as a massive degradation of themselves and their empires, emperors like Titus and Caligula couldn't resist the call of the arena. Thanks to Ridley Scott's 2000 film Gladiator, the most famous of the fighting emperors is Commodus. Commodus was presented as an egomaniac who insists on personally fighting Russell Crowe's Maximus before the crowds at the arena. This might feel like something contrived for the screen, but the real Commodus believed himself to be a divine warrior of the people, and he did enjoy fighting in the games. Of course, he didn't like the idea of losing in the games, so just like in the film, he preferred to fight in a staged or rigged combat, where the odds were overwhelmingly in his favor. Whether gladiators or golfers, everybody lets the boss win.
Gladiators, weapons, and class.
Gladiators are usually depicted fighting with swords, but in real life they used a wide array of weapons. This variety of combat was another way for promoters to keep things interesting, and in any given match, a crowd might see gladiators fighting with swords, spears, lances, and shields. These weapons each offered advantages and disadvantages that shaped the gladiator's fighting style. This in turn would create a personal brand that might make one particular warrior more memorable than the others. Along these lines, weapons were often assigned based on the gladiator's home culture. For example, Thracians got curved short swords, and Samnites used lances. One highly specialized class of gladiator were the retiari. Their style was based on the practices of fishermen, which meant that they typically wore little armor. This in turn made them highly mobile and agile, allowing them to use their weapons to maximum effect. Those weapons, again, were the weapons of a fisherman, namely a trident and a net. The idea would be for the retiari to use their mobility to avoid their more heavily armored opponent. At an opportune moment, they would then try to snare their enemy in the net, and then quickly run them through with the trident. In the same way that modern boxers need to be separated into weight classes to keep things competitive, ancient gladiators were broken up into classes based on differences in their weapons and armor. The major divisions were between lightly armored combatants and heavily armored combatants, but there were numerous subcategories of each. The fighters were also separated according to experience level, so that new recruits didn't find themselves up against veterans. The lightly armored gladiators typically fought in the middle of the day, after the opening beast fights, while the toughest and most experienced fighters were saved for last. So let's say you were too scared to fight, or maybe taking out another human being for the entertainment of a crowd violated your moral principles. Could you get out of it? No. You could beg for mercy if you lost, but gladiators scheduled for a contest were absolutely required to fight. Anyone who refused to fight would be attacked by the slave manager and his team, usually with whips and hot metal rods. Why do the rods have to be hot? The only sure way to avoid combat was to commit suicide, which wasn't always an easy task, as if it's ever an easy task. It's a bit of a rock and a hard place situation. Take, for example, a group of Germanic prisoners from the year 401 who were looking to avoid fighting in the arena. The only way they got out? They had to strangle themselves. That takes commitment. The Roman Empire had contact with numerous other cultures, and gladiators could come from any of them. As such, many gladiators had armor that was reflective of their origin. For example, Germanic gladiators often wore heavy armor, while Greeks and others from the east of the empire typically wore light armor. Murmillo gladiators wore fish-shaped crests on their helmets and were accordingly known as fishermen gladiators. Romans loved all types of combat, including vehicular combat, which is not to be confused with chariot racing, an entirely different event. There was even a class of gladiators who specialized in such fights. Known as the Esadari, these fighters used chariots as a platform for gladiatorial combat. They typically performed reenactments of famous battles in which Rome fought using chariots, such as in the fight against the British warrior queen Boudicca. While large-scale battles in the gladiatorial games weren't unknown, they weren't typical either. Rather than epic spectacles, the vast majority of fights were simple skirmishes between two combatants in an otherwise empty arena. Once again, this had to do with the considerable expense involved in training and maintaining gladiators. Fielding so many fighters at once would require deep pockets. Accordingly, such large-scale fights were usually reserved for special occasions or the richest and most powerful spectators. So what do you think? How long would you last in the arena? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other videos from our weird history.
Yep, that is gladiatorial history, people. Sorry you had to hear that one thing more than once. I was not expecting much. So, yes, this is where the heroes end. Now, in this one, in My Hero Academia, this is going to be a medieval AU. I know that's rare as hell. Oh, so in this one, Midoriya, aka Izuku, we're going for a more tactical way of things. In this one, Izuku Midoriya was actually sold by his mother to slavery because they couldn't pay back the farm. Now you're probably wondering in your heads, how could Inko do this? Well, she didn't want to. It was actually Izuku's idea to sell him for slavery. She didn't like the idea that she was selling her own child to slavery and pretty much all the other things. She hated the idea. As a matter of fact, she didn't want the idea to even pop up in her head, but she knew that her son was doing the right thing so he can feed his family. Now, as he said in the background, they were trained in ways that is not really that well known in the gladiatorial history. Now, as you heard the history, you also know that they were not meant many fights to the death. So be prepared for some knockouts and some oomph, and not that much blood unless he's fighting in the arena in a more political way, is the best way of saying this. Now in this one, Izuku gets to be known as not that much. His weapon of choice is mostly the type of sword that you would expect. But due to him in a Greek, he wields a curved blade, wields a regular blade. As for his colors are symbolizing of dry blood, which is black, dark gray, and black, dark red, and a really pale grayish is the best way of saying this. That is his main color in the game. However, that does not mean Izuku was really that light either, because Izuku would always be fighting two more dangerous combatants. Izuku's family was not really that well loved because, number one, they weren't really cared for, and due to them being a low class, as they didn't really see them as lightweight, and they weren't expecting, and they probably were training Izuku at the time. Now, due to Izuku, he's going to be wearing more lighter armor. He's not going to wear heavy armor because, due to him being the reincarnation adjacent, mind you, Izuku knows that he's the reincarnation adjacent. And I bet a lot of you are like, why am I not surprised he knows who he truly was in the past? But like I said, Izuku's used to killing, and he knows that he will kill something by accident or someone, so that's why he's doing this. He knows that his bloodlust will get the better of him. He knows it. That's half the reason why he's doing this. So he doesn't hurt his mother. That's half the reason why he's doing this. That's why he's literally doing all this. He knew that he was going to hurt him. He knew that was going to happen. So when Izuku Midoriya finally managed to actually find out where he is and find out where the location is, he actually managed to also take out the next combatants. Now, the way he fought wasn't really that strongly known because he was in the middle. He wasn't really the highest known class in the battle. He actually was the less known. Why was he less known? For example, because he was fighting among lesser known gladiators. However, he doesn't mean he was not known in the arena. It's just that he wanted to keep him to himself. And also it's because the family refused to let him fight in the big leagues for a long period of time because they didn't see him as a worthy combatant. And I quote. They didn't see him as a worthy enemy. They saw him as a waste of space. They didn't really see him as a big, strong man. They just saw a waste of space in their eyes. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean Izuku was not well known either. Now, we get to the part of Izuku Midoriya. Now, when we get to Izuku wears your typical normal helmet that you would expect. Now, mind you, Izuku was a farmer, but that doesn't mean he doesn't know his ways. So when Izuku first started fighting in the arena, he fought with a type of weapon. Mostly, he would fight with numerous weapons, as the guy said, weird history. That's when he started fighting with numerous amounts of weapons and wasn't really picky on what he was using. So in this fight, he was fighting against a certain foe. Oh, a champion who wore more ceremonial armor. Turns out he was actually gonna fight some old gladiator. He can honestly tell that the gladiator was in his 40s, and he can tell that this guy obviously was sick and tired of the fighting. It didn't take an expert to see that. Cool. But as I said, it didn't take a fucking expert to tell that he was tired of the fighting. So he pretty much he fought the gladiator. He wasn't expecting to fight a veteran, but he managed to take him out pretty well because number one, when he knocked him out, he didn't kill. Remember, gladiators weren't really that brutal back then. So when we get to Izuku, who is now fighting with pure optimistic and luck, okay, we find ourselves in a difficult fuse for Izuku. So, when we get to Izuku, he walks back into his room. Now, mind you, Izuku is a slave, so he doesn't get paid. Who bought him, you might be asking? And he actually was bought by Monoma, who is the Emperor's son in this AU. Now, Monoma treats him like shit, because he wanted to see Izuku dead. He wasn't expecting him to actually fight with such skill. No, he was definitely not expecting him to fight with such skill. He was expecting something else. He was expecting him to be dead. He was expecting a corpse. But really, he just got your random person who was just fighting in the arena to get him money for his family, which disappointed him greatly. So now he was going to be sent to the gladiators with lower fights. But the crowd loved Izuku. They loved his fights. They couldn't get enough of it. So pretty much the Emperor sent Izuku more and more into the fights. Not as much to the point where he is known, but enough. So now we get to Izuku Midoriya again. And this one, he's now in the mid-class. Mid-class meaning he's now going to be in the more tougher class, not the rookie class. Because he managed to survive 12 fights. Which, if you think about it, is pretty impressive. So now, Izuku, whose next wielding weapon, mind you, because remember, but Jason was not a very picky weapon user. So now we get to Izuku, who now wields a fishing net, a net, and a trident. Which Monoma was suggested because he's thinking in his head, there's no way he can wield this weapon, right? I mean, he's just a farmer. No way a farmer could wield this. When Izuku enters the battle, he sees more armored men. But actually now he just fights on one-on-one. He sees more men. But this time he realized that they're way more armored. So he's fighting people from a different country. So when Izuku pretty much faces them, they start attacking him. So when Izuku pretty much wielded his weapon, he started fighting them as well. Now, people do not know, but Izuku is known as the Unkillable, mostly because Izuku managed to survive the most fatal wounds, and everyone knows it. No one knows how he survives those wounds. They know he does. So in this one, Izuku has an immortality quirk. that's half the reason why he is wielding this shit. Now, when Izuku started fighting more and more, and also now he's fighting them, the guy was one's wielding a two-handed axe, while the other one is wielding a type of weapon. And it is from Greek, and it's that curved sword I mentioned in the game. In the, what they mentioned. And this guy is wearing more heavier armor along with the other one. So obviously he is dealing with people. So when Izuku started attacking the gladiators, and mind you, they did do this blindfolded. Izuku did do this blindfolded. What they don't know is Izuku has been blind before when he was a zombie. So he's used to seeing through one eye or two with eyes or just listening for his ears. Izuku just stands there and the brothers can't even hear him. So when he starts poking, Izuku was around them. Mind you, his helmet has no eye things whatsoever. So he's listening to the ground. One of the guys manages to find him and tries to stab him, but Izuku grabs his arm, dislocates it, and makes him fall to the ground, and then hits his head. And hits his back so hard they hear a bone crack. So the guy's not dead, obviously. The other brother hears that and is surprised. It's because they're pretty good at surviving at these. When the brother charges in willingly, Izuku, who trips him and literally now makes the guy trip, and this guy accidentally falls on his own dagger. Luckily, the wound wasn't fatal, but it's enough to pretty much he has to stay out of the game for a while. So, when Izuku Midoriya won the contest, this is when they hear the king says, "And the usual, Izuku wins!" Also known as the man behind the mask. As you can tell, people, there is nothing that Izuku the Unkillable cannot survive from. I wonder how he does that, I wonder. Maybe I should go in the ring with him next time. The crowd starts laughing because they know he wouldn't. Now, when Izuku enters his room, he sees Monoma. Now, in this one, Izuku doesn't speak, at all. He just keeps his mouth shut because he doesn't feel like dealing with him. Until Izuku finally hears "slave." And this one, Monoma just puts him in a corner. Now, mind you, Monoma is skinny. He's a femboy. Right, and he is just right in front of Izuku. Now, Izuku has the same muscle mass as Jason. And truth be told, if we've seen Jason, not the Jason you're thinking of, you sick perverts. He's pretty much pretty jacked for his size. This is when the Monoma is just right in front of him and saying, "How are you alive? I bought you so I could see you die. You were supposed to die more than once in that arena. And yet you survived. All of them. How do you do that?" He doesn't say a word. "Speak, slave!" Izuku doesn't speak. In fact, he just heads to his room and just sits down. Monoma is just now more enraged, and he just walks off. This is when one of the combatants, who you probably already know by now, says, "Wow, getting on the prince's bad side. You really don't like people, do you, Izuku?" This is when he turns around to see a person with a blondish hair and golden hair. "You've been getting pretty well known, Izuku." "I mean, I never thought you would actually get this far into the fights. I always thought you would die at the first round when I first saw you. Apparently I was wrong." "I guess I'm going to be continuously wrong. They're moving you up, by the way, to the more veteran classes." You really don't take off your helmet, do you? He just looks at Monoma. I mean, he just looks at Bakugo. Obviously, who that is. Well, this one, your next fight is going to be to the death. You're going to be facing a gladiator, a female gladiator who is well known in the north. Her name is Ochako Yaraka, a female gladiator. Good luck on that one. I heard she's nasty, and she's brutal. No one has survived her yet. I heard she's from north of Japan, it's called. So, oh, and I heard she wields some weird-looking weapons called hook swords. So, good luck on her. She doesn't really show mercy to her enemies. So, good luck on that one, Izuku. Izuku doesn't say a word. Wow, you really don't talk much, do you? Well, I'm heading to Grillby. Well, I'm going to bed. Good luck on your next fight, Izuku. The next morning happened, and this is when Izuku enters the arena with a short spear, with a trident and a short shield. And this is when he just hears, "Let the games begin!" Now this is when Ochako enters the room. Now Ochako is wearing her traditional armor. Now, with Izuku, he just sees it. This is when she starts charging in and she starts swinging her blades. Now, let's see if they can bleed. Heat. Now, with Izuku, who is now fighting in the arena, who's now dealing with Ochako, Ochako tries her best to actually take down Izuku. This one, Izuku realizes there's some liquid coming off of her blade, and she notices pretty quickly. He notices pretty quickly that's poison. So pretty much, luckily, he's using his arm brand and his shield as armor. She tries to go for the stomach, but this one Izuku gained the upper hand and pretty much just stabbed her in the throat with the trident. Normally it wouldn't, but she was stupid enough not to wear a helmet. This is when I hear, "Incredible! Even the furthest part of Japan cannot defeat our warrior." Monoma, who grins his teeth, is now just angry. You know, this probably was the best purchase you ever bought, son. I bought him so I can see him die. Son, Gladiator's dying is expensive, and Izuku is literally getting the crowd out rowling. Like, he literally is screaming, the crowd is screaming his name. So, obviously, he's not going anywhere anytime soon. Now, this is when Izuku is now moved to the higher class after his battle. Now, with Izuku, who actually got there, he is right there and he is just minding his own business. Though, truth be told, he wasn't expecting this much brutality from one person or one day. So when Izuku, who has defeated the gladiators more than once, is now wielding the most main weapon, and that is, there's another weapon. But what they don't know is Izuku is now just waiting for his next fight in the more presentation location. But with Izuku, he gets a knock on the door. he opens the door to see a male right next to his door. Mind you, this male is naked. He lets the guy in. Even though Izuku despises sex, he knows that the guy will just get beat up if he doesn't accept him. So Izuku accepts him. They have it, and they get done after an hour. Which is pretty impressive, you ask me. Now, with Izuku, who is now just getting up, and just sees and starts walking out. Now, when Izuku comes out of the thing, I should say, he comes across the person he is looking for. Another warrior who is pretty much just sitting there. But this is when Izuku sees his next opponent. And it's just some dude. It's no one too big. In their eyes, anyway. But really, they're dealing with someone huge. So when Izuku starts walking up and sees his next opponent, he realizes that this guy is going to be a challenge. Which is quite fucking rare, if you ask me. This is when Izuku just stands up. And he just sees and he starts seeing his next opponent. When he gets to his next opponent, the guy is literally just some random gladiator. And this guy is from the further north. Obviously. But this is when he starts facing someone else. He thought he was facing the gladiator. But really, now he finds out he's just facing some bigger dude? He realized he's facing a noble. And this is when he realized this noble is no ordinary noble. So this is when it's to the best part. Fighting him. So when Izuku starts fighting him, he starts fighting. The two actually start fighting off like savage animal. Almost left hook, right hook, brutality, you name it. The fight is just getting intense. Until pretty much Izuku gets a nasty slice on his lower side, but it doesn't affect him. Pretty much he just punches the guy next. Oh, mind you, I forgot to mention, Izuku's using a two-handed axe, while the other guy is using two wielding swords. So that's how he is doing in this fight. When the fight gets more deadly and it starts fighting more blood, he starts smiting worse. This is when he's just thinking, are you kidding me? This is when the guy's thinking, damn, this guy's good. But how is he fighting so well? This is when pretty much the royal guy tries to take out Izuku, but Izuku chops off his arm. The guy screams in agony, and he pretty much puts the blade to the throat. Now, the Emperor is in shock that he did this. But then he realized he's wearing a helmet where he can't see who he's fighting, which impressed him more. This is when Monoma's thinking, if he kills this noble, be banned, and then he'll have a public execution. This is when the guy puts a thumbs up. What? This is when he releases the noble. Why is father doing this? Do I really have to kill this guy myself? Oof. This is when Izuku just walks back to his room. And all the gladiators just look at him. They don't look at him like in shock, but they look at him as if he just did the worst sin in history. Because remember, back in the day, nobles didn't really fight that much. Not in historical way, anyway. So when Izuku took him out, it was a big shocker. With the noble who lost his arm. I hope you're not mad at our champion. Mensor? Are you kidding me? He's impressive. How come he's not in the How come he's not in the military? He's actually just a farm boy. Bullshit on farm boy. Guy managed to chop off my own arm. There's no way he's a fucking farm boy. Well, his mother is Inko Midoriya. Yeah. Inko Midoriya? He's a Midoriya? Yeah. They're mostly farmers. He's probably the first ever warrior in the game. He is. Period. What is that? What has his mother been training him? Don't know. I haven't thought of asking. I noticed that your son wants him dead. Yes, I know the real why's he bought him. Looks like the crowd is singing again. Looks like Izuku took out another opponent. Don't they get tired of him? He makes the crowd have a more curiosity kill. Oh. And plus, we always style this up with different types of weapons. Yeah, but still. Well, that's some dangerous weaponry right there. It's a miracle that he's not dead. It's more of a miracle that he has not dead. True, that is correct. So, let me ask you something then. What? Why don't you make the Midoriya family nobles? They literally have the biggest farmland. Mostly because that farmland is just us for farming. And besides, there's not that many farmers that turn noble. True, but he is pretty powerful. Well, I guess there's one way to make them noble. What's on your sick mind now? Monoma needs to find a lover, and soon. Wait, you're not suggesting... I am. Monoma's gonna kill you. I'm his father. He's not gonna kill me. He's gonna be mad, but he won't kill me. You sure about that? Because what you're suggesting is pretty fucked up. Oh, come now. Oh, All Might. We both know that this guy is perfect. I suppose you're right. Still, though, wouldn't mind him in the military. He's a gladiator, not a soldier. You and I both know that he will never join UA. Hey, what makes you say that? When I asked him about UA, he gave me the look of disgust. He doesn't respect UA, All Might, and he's never going to join it. I guess that's my answer answered. Yes, it is, All Might. Yes, it is. With Izuku, who is now just waiting. Anywho, this is when the crowd just starts singing. Well, actually, no, they start clapping and all that. You know the usual. This is when Izuku managed to take down yet another gladiator with a right hook. Look, this is when the king says, you know might as well be nice to your future husband, right, Nazu? I mean, right, Monoma? What? You heard me. You are marrying that man. But no buts. You need to learn that not all low classes are low. Remember, your father fought in the arena. You might as well tell him the news. Great. When Monoma gets there, Dad did this to spite me. He knows I don't like that guy, even though he's actually not that bad. What am I thinking? He's a gladiator. I'm a noble. He just needs to learn his place. But he is going to be my husband, so I might as well just get over it. Besides, I get the kingdom, and a prince needs to think for his people. My dad is just thinking what's best for me, so I might as well just accept this. When he walks to Izuku's room, slave. Izuku looks at him. Come with me. Izuku walks with him. Did my father tell you? Yes, I was actually quite surprised when he announced it. Yep. Good luck, Your Majesty. And you too. Ooh, Your Highness. Izuku looks at him with confusion, like, what? What? Well, since we're gonna get married, we might as well just get to know each other. This is when Izuku's just thinking, what? Hold up, I didn't sign up for this, Izuku thinks in his mind. And why do I have to marry you? I mean, seriously, why should I marry you? You tried to get me killed. You let that woman bring poison into the gladiatorial arena, you fucking femboy cunt. Izuku thinks in his mind, but he doesn't say because, like I said, he's a mute. He can't speak. It doesn't mean he can't speak out of his mind. And let us go. Oh. With Izuku, who's now walking in the kingdom, this is where you'll be sleeping from now on. If you wish to still do gladiatorial stuff, you'll be fighting in the more active arenas. Izuku's thinking, what? Yes, you'll now be fighting in more powerful arena fighting, meaning you're now a veteran gladiator who will now be fighting people to the death. Mostly, you'll be fighting wanted criminals. Most that'll be fighting to the death. Pretty much, you'll be their executioner. And due to the crowd that loves you, and they like it when you kill more, you'll be doing that mostly. So, sweetie, Izuku gags a little bit from hearing that word. Believe me, I prefer to be with my lover. I prefer her not to marry you. Believe me, you think I want to... you in me? This one Izuku just goes to a vase and just throws up. Very funny. You fuck. Just... well, we're also going to be sharing a room, so you might as well just get over it. Izuku just rolls his eyes. Mind you, Izuku always wears his helmet, so he's like, yeah. Also, no, Monoma has never seen Izuku without his mask, so he doesn't know what he looks like. Eek. This is when Monoma stops him. Izuku looks at him. You expect to come in here looking like this? You gotta be more or showable. Izuku gives him a look. Without the armor, take it off. You could be wearing robes. This is when Izuku starts taking off his armor. Oh, and you'll be also taking a bath. I don't want you to smell. You reek of blood and sweat. This one he's just thinking in his head, I'm a gladiator, you prick. What did you expect? Man, sometimes I miss the modern day at Camp Clister Lake. Huh, someone else must be fighting in the arena today. They might stay. This is when Izuku Midoriya pretty much just walks down. Oh. So... This is when he pretty much takes off his armor and takes off his helmet. And he pops his neck. Now, Izuku's hair is a darkened midnight brown on a moony night. Wait. And his skin is actually a little bit darker. He's like... Actually, no, it's same as a Greek skin. And he has a scar on his left eye. So he's used to being blind. This is when Izuku pretty much takes off his helmet and just sees the people who's going to watch him. Which are mostly servants. So Izuku is thinking in his mind, oh great, this should be fun. What? What are they going to do with me now? Must be some party or something. When Izuku pretty much... Let's get there. Well, yours might as well get used because, like I said, you're going to be with me a lot. And plus, we're both taking a bath, so... This is when he just looks at the guy and is like, I can wash myself. Which the mains can easily tell. Oh, that ain't for you. You're going to wash yourself. You do know how to do that. He gives him a look like, do you know how to wash yourself? I'd be surprised if you know how to put on your underwear. Here, don't give me that look. Look, I can tell from I know what an insult is, sweetie. Izuku's thinking, someone kill me now. How if I'm dating this prick? And this is when he just comes around. This is when he just takes his bath. And starts washing his hair and all that. Wait. Did the Greeks even have soap back then? Did they have soap back then? I'll just say they did. Yeah, I'll just say they had soap back then, because I am not looking that up. I'm not even sober for that yet. So, with Izuku, who is now... out sitting, I think minding his own business. When he gets done with his, bath and starts starts his usual day. Well, he puts on his robes, even though he does not like it. How does he not like it, you may ask? Well, it's literally... and I quote, literally robes. He does not like the feel of it. He's too used to wearing gladiatorial clothing. He just thinks it's weird. When Izuku goes downstairs, with his robe, this is when he comes across. This is when Izuku has a cross of someone else. Who is that someone else, you might be asking? It is actually quite simple. His future husband, Monoma. And Monoma sees him and he just straight up blushes. Well, you can't... Well, might as well get it more. That's what Monoma's thinking. Fuck. I wasn't expecting this. I mean, I was expecting probably him to be some ugly bastard. I wasn't expecting him to actually be a hot smoking dude. Great. Now I'm having doubt. Now I'm doubting me. Great. Well, he is my husband now, so I might as well just get over it. But at least he's good looking. At least. Don't have to worry that. Don't have to worry that much. Now, this one he just walks out into his room, and he just sees his boyfriend. Okay, so you still, like I said, you'll be able to do what you normally do, and that it is mostly just fight in the arena. You don't really get to do that much. So pretty much, I hope you have good intentions of doing so. All right. Get cracking. This one Izuku looks at him in confusion, like, what? Well, you gotta get used to me. He immediately gets it. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Kidding me. Really? Izuku's thinking in his head. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. I gotta fuck this guy now? This bastard better be good at what he does. This bastard. Sir better hope he expects to be a bottom, because there is no way there's gonna be a top. There's no way he's a top. Oh, that's for fucking damn sure. This one, pretty much, they both strip. Izuku having his scars that are so fatal, it's a miracle he's alive. Monoma looks at them. How the fuck is he alive? Even I remember that scar. That's the scar when he fought that elephant. I mean, that's the scar when he got impaled by that rhino. That's when he's got the title and got to be known as the Immortal. Now, with Izuku, who is now just sitting down, minding his own concern. And pretty much he's just sitting there. Mind you, they're both butt naked. This is when Monoma just starts, well, you know what, time skip. time skip, 2 hours passed. Monoma is now looking like he just had the best time of his life. Izuku, well, let's just say he wished he had a cigarette right now, if they still existed. This one Izuku's thinking, okay, not gonna lie, that was actually pretty good. But I'm going to the arena. I need to blow off steam. Monoma knows where he's going because he is literally wearing his armor. Starts wearing his armor, but he doesn't care because he can't move. When the father walks in, and then sees his husband leave, seeing his gladiatorial son-in-law leaving. So Izuku, Monoma, how did it go? He gives a thumbs up. So, still think you want him dead? He blushes. So you're a tsunade. A what? Who doesn't... You act like a top, but really you're just a bottom. I am a top. Really? Wait, he raises an eyebrow. Okay, I'm a bottom. At least you're admitting it. Wait. Why did you really want me to marry Izuku? You do realize your mother was a gladiatress, right? You just never knew because she didn't want you to think low of her. Is that how you met Mom? In the arena? Yep. Huh. I guess that makes sense. So, thanks, I guess? Thanks? For what? Opening my eyes. You're welcome. Also, maybe next time be nice to your husband. Because he's gonna be your only husband. What? Yep. Yep, that's your only husband. So let me get this straight. All those other things, not happening. Because let's both face it. You are a bottom. Doesn't matter how much you want to deny it, you're a bottom. I hate it when you're right. Yeah, but you also hate it when you admit you're wrong. True. So, what now? Well, now you get ready. Okay, because this is gonna be a lot longer than you think. You get to watch your boyfriend fight in the arena. All right. You're not even trying to deny it. There's no point. At least you're not even trying to deny it. Yeah, at least. When Izuku gets there, when he gets done. Hmm. This is when Izuku just sees his neck. This is when Izuku goes to the arena. Alrighty, there's the arena. This one here. Alright, here's the next combatant. Wanted criminals versus your champion. You're Izuku Midoriya. Let the games begin. Now we get to everyone's favorite part. The killing. When Izuku starts doing his killing thing, because, let's admit it, they all are getting screwed. This is when Izuku comes across. Oh, it's the gladiators. Now the men start attacking Izuku, but Izuku grabs one of the weapons. Mind you, he grabs one of the weapons that actually screams good weapon. He starts taking them out, the gladiators. He starts beating one up with a crowbar, with a, what was that one thing called? Called, a mace. Yeah, he beats one up with a mace. But then he grabs a gladiatorial version of the flail and literally just slams one into the skull so hard it actually smashes his face into pieces. This is when one gladiator charges but this is when Izuku punches his chest so hard that the heart pops out. Everyone is shocked on how quick and clean that was. And he just rips the heart out and shows it to the crowd. And just crushes it. The crowd cheers for their champion. And even the father is like, God damn. This is when Monoma's thinking, he's been holding back his fights? How powerful is he? He may not talk much, but maybe I should give him a chance. This is when Izuku's thinking, well, I'm gonna be dealing with her. I'm gonna be dealing with that guy a lot, so I might as well just get used to him. I already know I'm gonna be dealing with him. Alright, now time for the next. And that's been going on for the past, I'm going to say 3 months. And this one, Izuku accepted the fact that he's marrying Monoma, and Monoma is falling further and further for him. Not his heart, but let's just say he's got addicted to his dick. But he still cares about him. Now we get, this is when they finally get married, and etc, etc. Pretty much you get the point. They've been fighting for a while. But this is when pretty much they get to the age of 112, I'm going to say, how does Romans live back then? 40? 60? Okay. They are at 60 and they're now on their deathbed. See you on the other side, my love. When they both close their eyes, we get to see the present of My Hero Academia. With Izuku pretty much now being his normal self. He still remembers his past. But this one he hears, been a while. It's been a while. Huh, my little gladiator? Huh? This one Izuku recognizes him. Monoma? Yep. And this one Monoma, not even hesitating, just kisses him. Right in front of everyone. And Izuku doesn't even hesitate either. This one he looks at Bakugo, and Bakugo sees this, he's like, what the? Oi, Deku, you gay, you little shit? Izuku gives him the middle finger. And yet, I managed to get a bitch and you don't. Deku! Whatever. Why don't we take this to my house? My mom's not going to be home until next week, until next month. Good. With All Might. Oh my. Okay. What the fuck? Fuck. I didn't expect that. And yes, I decided to make this a season 2. So that means there's going to be a second part to this. But it's going to be called an AU. See where I'm going? So I decided to do 2 AUs at once. What's this one going to be called? Well, you'll see when I get back. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. This has been Dunkle Dylan here, God of Chaos, and I'll see you in the next vid.